leak at the base of your toilet, it's usually the wax ring or a toilet gasket. So I'm going to go through the steps on how to reseat it, and you should just need these tools. Just an adjustable wrench, a good pair of adjustable pliers, some type of scraper to get the old wax if you have a wax ring on. I always like to have a pair of cheap rubber gloves, and then some type of toilet gasket. So the first step, we want to shut off the water to the tank, and so you're going to completely turn off the valve, the supply to the tank, and then we're going to flush all the water out. And then once it's flushed out, because we're going to pull the whole toilet up and move it, I'm going to take a sponge and I'm going to soak up all the water inside the tank and then just get it dry. So I took all the water out of the tank with a sponge, and now I'm just going to plunge out as much water as I can in the bowl, because when we lift it, if we tilt it too much, it is going to leak. And always use a plunger with a little lip on this, a flange, so that it seats into the bowl. Now I'm just going to loosen the supply line going up to the tank itself. So I'm going to loosen the nut with an adjustable pliers. To the nut, and then we're just going to unscrew this and then put a little pan or something underneath, because a little bit of water is going to come out. So I'm going to take my adjustable wrench, and we're just going to loosen the two nuts on the bolts that hold the toilet in place. And if they don't unscrew, if they're rusted shut, then you're going to have to use a hacksaw to break them free. Now that the nuts are off, I'm going to lift the toilet off, and I like to have an old towel or a rag to put the toilet on and try to keep it upright. Any water in that trap will leak if you tilt it too much. And now you can see the old wax ring. And the problem with wax is it gives over time, and if you plunge a lot, you can actually break it. And if the toilet rocks at all, it'll compress the wax, and then it will not spring up. So now we're just going to take a scraper, scrape away all the old wax. So you can see the old wax ring, how it deteriorates, and how if you compress it, it does not spring back. That's why I like this Sani Seal, and this is a foam gasket that actually springs back. If you set your toilet back on this and you set it improperly and you want to reseat the toilet, this will spring back. Whereas if you did that with a wax ring, you would destroy it on the first shot. So I really prefer these non-wax toilet gaskets. And what I'm also going to do is change these bolts and put new bolts in here. You can see how rusted these are. So the next step, I'm going to clean this up, and we'll put two new bolts in here. So now when I put the new bolts in for the toilet, what I'm going to do is I bought an extra stainless steel washer and an extra stainless steel nut. And I'm going to lock this down onto the toilet flange. And especially if you're working by yourself, it makes it very easy. You lock these bolts in place, and they're not going to wobble on you when you try to reseat the toilet, so they're going to stand straight up. And also, in the future, if you ever had to change this toilet, this will be locked in so this bolt doesn't spin when you try to loosen it. So now I'll lock down both bolts, and then we'll put the toilet back on. So I'm going to put the toilet gasket on. I like the Sani Seal because it actually is wider than a regular wax ring, so it's going to go over those bolts. And if you didn't have an extra nut and a bolt, it actually helps hold them up for you. And again, this compresses, it'll spring back. It just does a fantastic job. In my opinion, this just blows away regular wax ring. And now we're just going to reseat the toilet. So I'm just going to lift it up and drop it on the bolts. It's that easy. And now we'll tighten down the nut and the bolt that holds it to the flange. So as I tighten these nuts up, you want to tighten it from one side then the other side. This is actually where if you had a helper, they could sit on the toilet to compress that gasket. And then you just want to snug it up. You don't want to over tighten it. The toilet is just clay, so we don't want to over tighten it. You can crack this. So I'm just going to snug it up on both sides and go back and forth till it's nice and snug. One thing you can do is just grab the front of the bowl and just kind of lift it with your legs and your hands just to kind of see if there's any wobble. And here it's snug. If there's a little bit of wobble, just again put a quarter turn at a time on the nuts until it's snug. So now the next step, we're just going to connect the supply line to the fill valve on the tank. And now we're going to turn on the valve to the tank. We'll fill it up and give it a test. So you can flush it a couple times and just check at the base of the toilet, but that's all there is to reseating a toilet.